So I've got this painting to do of this boat and I've drawn it all out. So I'm going to start painting. I'm putting in the sky first. It's going to be a classic wet in wet sky. It's going to take a bit of wetting. It's been quite a warm day. Now that bit I can go over, that bit I want to avoid. And what I'm doing is when you go over it, I kind of go back up to the top to make sure it's not drying off back at the top. So all of that is darker. Just need to make sure that that is wet enough. So just about there, I think. I'm going to mix a colour here. I've got some ultramarine and some turquoise. The turquoise just lifts the colour. The ultramarine gives it richness, so the two together are quite good. I just need a bit more colour here. It's a nice little mix. So this is going to be a plain sky at the top, but I'm just going to have a few little sort of clouds coming down on the horizon area. And I'm just going to take a clean dry brush and just going to push some of this about a little bit. And a bit more colour in here. So this smaller brush just has a bit more control. Let's just clean that through there. Let's give that a bit more fluff, shall we? You've got to get to this before it all dries out. Puddle there, we don't want a puddle because that will back run. Do I have time to put a little shadow in there? So I'm going to add just a bit of a red to it to give me this purpley colour. And let's just see if there's room for a little bit of shadow in my clouds, just a touch before they dry. So I've put those in, and then let's smush that around a bit. And then I kind of have to leave it alone. Just going to bring this down to my horizon line. Take it out of there for a minute. We've got a little bit of a sky going on. Okay, Okay, I shall let that dry for a minute and then come back and do the next bit. So my sky has just about dried off. I've got an area here I want to leave clear. I'll come back into that later, but I need to put a base down for the sea. So I'm doing this in the background. I'm using the same sort of colour, the two blues, and I'm putting a tiny touch. So I've got my two blues mixed together there, and I've put a tiny touch of a yellow in there. And I'm going to make it sort of a greener colour as we come forward. But I'm starting off try and keep my brush strokes flat. That's my flag there, so I'm going to leave that. Oh, I've got wildlife. See you later, wildlife. Adding a little touch more of the blues, just changing the colour of it slightly as I come forward. And I need to make sure I've got both my brushes, because what I want to do over here is use the colour while I have it so that it matches. I'm just going to take a damp brush and just run that out that side. Again, I've got lots to do up here, so I just want to fade into that. Right, so this colour can come back in this side. So I'm going to add a bit more of my yellow, and I'm actually going to add a tiny touch of the red, and that just makes it not quite so bright green, just softens it down slightly. Soften this out for a minute. I can build the layers up, no problem, but I can't take them out, so just using a little bit of water to soften some of that colour. Touch more of the yellow and a touch more water. And I just need to let that dry. A few little odd shaped marks, so I'm just tiddling. Stop tiddling. Okay, so I need to let that bit dry. So what I need to do now is I'm just going to come back across the sea, and I need to just put in some different colours, just even it out a little bit. So my two blues, a little bit of red just to deepen that down. Right. So I've just flattened my brush so that I can get, instead of that, we've got this nice flat. I'm just going to come in. Put that in, clean and dry my brush, and push it around a little bit before it sets up too much. Varying the colour again. I'm just going to add a little more of the turquoise and flatten my brush down again so I get this nice, instead of that I get a nice flat edge. And I need to add a bit more of my yellow in, but before I do that I'm going to do a little bit of this on the other side. So same bit of colour mixing, same three colours. So I've got a bit of a horizon vanishing there, so I'm just going to fill that in. Now I know this top bit of the boat is quite light, so I'm going to put a few more darker marks in there. Again, clean my brush down and just push this around a little bit. So this is just a damp brush, no paint on it at all. I'll fiddle with all of that in a bit. So come back in. Let's green this up a little bit. So same two blues. I've not put the red in this time, but I have added a little bit of my yellow. Overlap that with the previous colour that I had a little bit. Now I'm going to start to add a little touch of sparkle. So I'm going to be using this, which is Pebio's Pearl Medium. It's a water-based sparkly thing. So if we have a look, it's here. Sort of silvery sparkly. It's very subtle, it's quite hard to pick up on the camera. I'm not going to be using tons and tons of it, but it just adds a beautiful subtle sparkle, which when you're painting the sea is really nice. And I'm going to add more of it as we come forward, but in this sort of mid-ground I'm just using a little bit of it. That was a bit strong. Spread that out a touch. So I've got this odd square shape here, so just by putting a few horizontal marks in there I can even that shape out a little bit. And also there's going to be shadows underneath the boat, so I want to keep the bit where there's not shadows just really light. Touch more of the pearl. Let's bring that in over here. You probably won't see this pearl medium on the screen. I'll try and get let's see if I can get that. Don't know if you can see it over here. There's just a little tiny bit of it. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. If you can't, it's there. Just take my word for it. Just want to lift a little bit of this out because the shadow comes in here and I want next to the shadow just to be a little bit lighter. It's all about that contrast. Now the further forward I come, the more these little lines become more like these little lozenges. This is going to build up over several layers. And I'll put the boat shadow in once I've painted the boat. It's easier once you've actually got the object there that you're reflecting. Just bring you down. Now I've got down to the lower part. you can join me. Having these broader, hopefully it adds to the perspective, so we've got them narrower up here and these shapes are a little bit broader as they come forward. In this section I'm going to start working on this background bit, and I've got a whole load of little boats back there. So again, I'm going to come in, I'm going to use the same palette I had before. I've got some yellow, some rose, an ultramarine and a turquoise. The yellow, rose, ultramarine, turquoise, and I've got a bit of the sparkle, which I probably won't use up here. So I'm going to start off with the ultramarine. And let me just pick out a boat. I've drawn a whole load here, so I'm just trying to work it out. So I have got that one. Okay, I have no idea what I've drawn. Let's start here. Just making my blue a bit more neutral, a bit less bright. So I've added some of the red and the yellow into it. Now this boat has a quite dark door. Or cover or something in the back of it. There's little bits on here. And then I've left this bit clear because I wasn't sure how far down my reflections would need to go. In places like here, I want my reflection to be light. So I'm putting these shadows in and then just spreading them down just slightly, spreading them out. I want to leave this little light bit, so I might even just take a little bit of colour out from there. I've got a couple of slightly smaller boats over here. Not so much on them, it's more a case of painting around them. It's definitely got some shadow on this end panel. But it's also got some shadows going on and things happening behind. I lost a little bit of my drawing here, so I'm just going to draw some of this back in just so I can see what I'm working with. Probably doesn't look like much to you, but I can make out what I'm doing from that. It's got a dark cover on it. So we've got a darkish shadow coming down behind the boat. And a lighter shadow coming down here, so I need to try and lift a little bit of this out. The turquoise is the least lifting of the colours I'm using, but they all kind of will lift a bit. So that's quite good. So the dark bits in between the boats will cast a reflection as well. Another covered boat here. Again, it's not a lot to see on the boat itself, it's just the area around it as much as anything else. It's going to put a whole load of masts in behind here as well. This one has got a little bit more of the turquoise in it, so I'm actually going to put a coloured hull on this one. boat's got a little tiny weeny cabin on it, which is mostly visible by painting something behind it. Bit of a dock coming out there. And then behind here, there's just an awful lot of stuff that you can't really see. We've got some more boats in a different part of the marina. Now we have to be a little bit brave here, because in amongst all of these boats in the background, we need to put in a whole host of masts. Kind of gives a context to where we are. I'm not sure we would see that one. We might see a little bit of that mast. Doing some here with virtually no paint on. And that's just to try and make them look a bit further away, so I'm doing these ones smaller. Okay. Right, so let's come into the boat. This is the scary bit because this matters. So we've got this dark blue canopy. See where the ribs are underneath it. And I'm just using some water to soften that colour and drag it up just to give me that variety on the surface of the canvas. I presume it's canvas. Now this dome has got some shading on it. I've got to be careful to leave the white. The thing with painting boats is you have to be, really careful to preserve the white. I don't want to use masking fluid on this. I just want this to be preserved. Various structures on top, and I am not sure what they are, so I'm just painting the shapes that I can see and hope that is what they're supposed to look like. And this is all to do with radar, I know that much, but I don't know exactly what. These figures are going to be pretty much just silhouetted in this, but we can try and at least get them to be the right proportion and shape and that kind of thing. This guy almost looks like he's fishing, but I don't think they would be where they are. Now we've got the guy at the sharp end driving the boat. He's kind of showing up the same colour as the chair there. Something going on here, but I can't really see what. And I've got what I guess are the two ladies sat on the front here. Very difficult to see. Not quite as silhouetted as the guys. seems to be some kind of mattress or blanket or something that they're chilling out on, which is rather nice. Okay. This bit here is still shaded, but not as much as there. So let's start off at the side here where it's darkest. Okay, there's a little white corner over there. breathe. Down here we seem to have a little outboard, rib of some sort. Seems to be sort of a wooden platform underneath. Come back in and add some more shadows into all of that in a bit. If my steps have dried off, then I can put some shadow in behind them. And it's about making decisions, because the shadows do almost look the same colour in a lot of places, but I kind of need to make one differentiate from the other, so I kind of need to exaggerate some in order to make others feel right. There's a whole load of red bags or something in the back here. I'm assuming this is life vests and that kind of thing. Now I just need to put a little bit of shaping and shading here, because this bit comes along and down, and there's a shadow there. Then we have the flag. There is a little bit with the whatever. I presume that's a Union flag in the corner, but it's really quite difficult to make out. That needs to dry. I need to add some more layers to that. Let's have some shadows in here now. Something on there. There's something in there. I have a big aerial that comes there. That's a tad heavy. Right, so now I need to go dark, which is just my 3 colours again, but just more of it. Start on these windows. I may have to do a couple of layers of this. Let's see how it goes. Starts to add a bit of character to it, doesn't it? Right, there's blue down here on the boat, but there's one more layer of shadow that I need to put in. And there's small bits down here that are white but shaded. And then I think I'm going to let it all dry and go and have a cup of tea. So we've got most of the boat done. I need to put this dark patch in at the side here. But I then also need to ground the boat, because at the moment the boat is kind of floating in the air. Just getting myself settled. Now this is a dark blue. It's quite similar to colour to that, but a bit bluer. So let's see how we can get that. Again, I'm using my three colours, my blue, my red and my yellow. So I've got a rose, a lemon and an ultramarine, but I'm using a lot more of the blue. Again, might need to do more than one coat on this. I think this is going to need to be a little bit darker. But we can do that with another layer. Just want to get quite an even coverage first. And we can worry about the colour later. That'll do to start with. I'm going to slurp in the tea. Now there's all sorts of stuff. There's bits of stuff going on. I need some more paint. There's bits of stuff going on to hold that canopy up. There's railings, there's all sorts of things. So I need to kind of indicate all of these things to make the painting look right. Now in silhouette these are quite dark up here, so we're just gonna pop these in. Now we also have some shadows, so this here seems to be casting a shadow over the side of the boat. So is that. So I need to put those down and then just wash that out so they fade into the general shadow. There's definitely a shadow under there. Now that actually comes down a bit further. That needs to be lifted out. Now there is some shadow going along on this. Not quite sure what is casting the shadow, but there is definitely a shadow coming across there. And it comes up there. That's all a bit wet. It's not as dark as there. That needs to come back a little darker. Oh, it's complicated. The more you look at it, the more complicated it is. And then I have all of the railings around the side. So they come back to here. Come up to here. So let's just bring them forward. It's quite difficult to see what's going on up there. I'm going to add some silver to this as well, just to make it more visible. But for now, we're doing it this way. And obviously they go down that far side of the boat as well, but that's less visible from here. Now, each one of those seems to be casting a little shadow across the front of the boat. Now there is also, I need to put a second layer on that blue on the side of the boat, so I'm going to do that now. And there is a bit more to come further down. Now here it's a bit lighter, and then it kind of comes in. It's pretty much that darker all the way back. Just getting a bit more paint out. Now we have another line of colour that breaks away from that. Goes down to that water line. Okay, so what I need to think about imminently is to sit this in the water. So we need to start putting some shadow, reflection, all of those kind of things into the water. So I need to go back with a bit more of my turquoise in there. I've got my dark colour that I've just been using. I've added a bit of turquoise to it and a touch more yellow to make it a bit greeny. Again, this is going to be in several layers. Okay, time for a slurp of tea. Whilst that's drying, I notice this line is a little off. What other little bits and pieces can I do? Now, there's obviously something tying this all down and hooking it all in, but that's not sure where or what we would see there. Right, let me get a little bit more of my silver and come back to these railings whilst the water there is drying. Just to remind you, what I'm using here is the Pebeo Pearl Medium. Okay, let's just put a little bit of that. Not hugely visible, but just enough, I hope. There's more little things, I don't know what they are, but they're casting shadows, so I'm coming back to the sea. I'm mixing up more greeny colours, so this has got a bit more of the turquoise in it. just going over layers. I'm going to have it a little touch darker right under the boat, but let's just do this bit right now. It's going to carry on working into the water. Right, let's have a bit of turquoise, silver. Just get some turbulence coming out the back here. Bit of the ultramarine blue as well. Now let's see if I can just lift little bits of this as well in between. Oh, this needs to get darker right in underneath, so let's mix a darker mix. Again, both my blues, the red and the yellow. Little tiny bits, but hopefully they do make a difference. Now I do want to get a little bit of these sea colours and just reflect them up onto the prow of the boat. So I'm kind of reasonably happy with the water underneath the boat. Might need just a little darker line along the edge, but I kind of need to bring this further out so it's putting a little bit of this in. And then washing it around. It's better. Just bring you down a bit onto what I'm working on. Oh, you're going to slide. There we go. So same thing, putting it on, smushing it around a bit, just trying to give it a bit more character. And each time I do it, I'm only mixing up a little bit of colour, so each time the colour varies slightly. And if you've ever looked at the sea, it's not a flat colour, it's lots of different colours. The chair really is quite creaky, isn't it? This last little corner over here, and then I need to step back and just have a little look at it, see what I think. Right. I just need a little bit of proper dark. Okay, I think I need to live with this a little and see what I think.